Hello, good morning, children. Yesterday we had done about cells. Was that concept clear to you? Cells, cell organelles, how the
Yes,
cell organelle functions, how that function is reflected overall in our entire body.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you all go back and then do some more research on it, study a little bit more about it? Nobody. No answers for this. Okay. So today's topic is animal classification. Okay. Uh, See, everything in nature is available in bounties. Okay. For us to study them, to understand their nature, everything, we as human beings, we love to do is we love to classify things. Why is it so? That it becomes easy for us to know what is in what kind, how they will behave, how their features are. So we love to do that. Okay, so that is what we do. So here we did classification of even metals, non-metals, all the elements available. Similar way, there's a way how to classify all the animals that are available on the planet also. Okay, and then next time we'll be doing how the plants are also classified. Okay, so these classifications are important for us to understand how different forms of life forms are available on the earth. Okay, so we'll begin with our first slide. Yeah. So now we are going to see a few types of classification on different types. Okay. Now, for example, I can say, okay, there are clothes in your cupboard. Okay, you might classify as the clothes that you are wearing outside, the clothes that you wear at school, the clothes that you wear at party. This is one type of classification. Okay, means where you are uh, based on what type of place you're going to wear it. Okay, you can also classify it based on colors also. Correct. You can also say that I'm putting the red colors together, the blue colors together. Okay, so different types of ways of classification are available. Okay, so we're going to see a few of the slides initially, which you all probably know. It's just going to be like a revision for you all. Okay, so the first type of classification is based on the nature of the animal. Correct? So the animal may be wild animal or the animal may be a domestic animal. What do you mean by a wild animal? A wild animal is the animal that is living independently. Okay, who does not depend on anyone for their food, any of its needs. Okay, so it is independent of a human being. Such an animal is called as a wild animal. Okay, a domestic animal is the one that is you have tamed it, you are living in close association with it, and that domestic animal will not be able to survive on its own because it depends on you for the food, for shelter, for even medication. So if you've got a pet at home, you will have to take care of all these things. Such animals are called as domestic animals. Okay, um, I'm very sure you know the names of wild animals which are there. So there would be all the ones that live in the jungle, like elephant, deer, rhino, hippo, lion, tiger. All of those will be wild. Okay, and the ones that live uh, in domestication would be like horse, ducks, okay, pigs, ducks, then dog, cat, all those will be domestic animals. Okay. Now the next type of classification. So the next type of classification we'll talk about will be based on the number of cells. How many cells that entire organism is made up of. So the entire organism will be made up of one cell or it will be made up of many cells. Okay. So if we're talking about something that is made up of only one cell, then we say that those are called as unicellular organisms because only one type of cell. There's only one cell that they are made up of. Okay. Uh, so these are the ones that normally we date up to,
Ma'am, I
fossil
can't
time.
see a presentation.
You have to pin yourself to KitKat Lab. Have you pinned yourself to KitKat Lab?
Yes, ma'am. It's showing a K.
I huh? Can you see it now?
No, ma'am.
There are two KitKat's Lab. There are two KitKat Lab. See yourself that you're
Ma'am, we have
pinning
to
yourself to the
pin
correct.
the presentation. I've pinned that
Yeah.
only, but I can't see it.
Why don't you leave and join again?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll just wait for a minute for this girl to join it again.
Ma'am, she joined.
Yes, ma'am, I joined.
Okay. So uh, we are talking about the animal classification based on the number of cells. So if there is only one number of cell available, then we call it to be a unicellular. Okay, and these type of organisms are mainly, we can date it to like prehistoric times, really, really long time, millions of years ago. So this is based on the theory of evolution. You all must be aware of the fact that Darwin has given the theory of evolution, that how slowly the earth was first made up of only gases and chemicals, and slowly they were combining, and then the first cell came into the picture. Then after that, that one cell, it was only a unicellular organism, it started surviving, it started having food, etc. Then that became into multicellular when it started dividing. So first it divided, it started living in a colony, single colony. Okay, single cells only, unicellular only, living in colonies. Slowly they evolved, they evolved much more, and they became into multicellular. Okay, so that is how it goes. Okay, so unicellular organisms are the ones that we are dating to prehistoric time. Okay, this examples may be all the types of bacteria that we're talking about: amoeba, paramecium, all the protozoas. When I say protozoa, all these organisms are jumbled into it. The algae, paramecium, all of those. Okay, and they are so small because they are single cells. Single cells. I'm very sure yesterday I showed you the example of how we are seeing a single cell of an onion peel. Okay, so you have to see it in the microscope. So these are not to be seen by naked eyes. You can't see. A lot of times there are paramecium available in water. Lot of time there is paramecium available in the soil also. Okay, so when you want to see paramecium, we take samples of water, dirty water, samples of soil, and we can see paramecium there. So all these organisms are not visible to naked eyes. You can't see it with your normal eyes. You have to see it under the microscope. Okay, so that is what uh, the need is for seeing these unicellular organisms. Okay, multicellular organisms. Multicellular is when there is more than one number of cells. Then they are called as multicellular. Okay. Now these unicellular are the ones which we normally say that they are prokaryotes. Yesterday I spoke about prokaryote and eukaryote. When I say prokaryote, I mean that in that one cell everything is jumbled up. Okay, there is no nucleus, no concept of any organization is not there. It's just basically all the things are inside the cell. Okay, when I talk about eukaryotes, they're getting more organized, so they will have a proper well defined nucleus. All these systems will be available properly and will be seen clearly, so they are called as eukaryotes. Okay, so Multicellular is all the organisms that you can see. Lot of multicellular you can't even see also. Okay, it's not that only unicellular you can't see, even multicellular also you can't see. Okay, so uh,
Ma'am,
uh,
I have a
so
question.
yeah.
Ma'am, I heard about a protozoa named Plasmodium. Is that a prokaryote or is that a eukaryote?
I don't really I will have to look into it and tell whether it is prokaryote or eukaryote. Okay, Plasmodium is there. Plasmodium vivax is the one from which we are extracting antibiotics. Okay, but I really don't know. I will have to see into look into it whether it is protozoa or whether it is prokaryote or eukaryote. Okay. Okay, see, one question, one thing that comes to my mind is a lot of y'all ask questions which are out of the presentation. Okay, so what happens is that we are not prepared for it. Firstly, I may know the answer, I may not also know the answer, but my request is, why don't you stick to the information that we are giving you? So the information that we are giving you, please try to take that and don't ask me something outside the box. Okay, if you want to ask me outside the box, you can when the questioning section is there. But at least during the class, you can ask me something where you've not understood. You stop me out right there. Okay. Okay. So we did first classification that would be based on the nature. Second classification based on the number of the cells. Now third type of classification. Third type of classification is where these animals are living. Okay, so there could be animals that are living on the land. They will be called terrestrial. A lot of animals living on the land: dog, fox, lion, elephant. All these are terrestrial. In that, you will also include the wild also and the domestic ones also. Okay, there are a lot of animals living in water as well. Okay, so those will be aquatic ones. All the fishes, jellyfish, octopus, crabs, all those will be living in water. Okay, now there are some that live in water as well as land, so those are called as amphibians because they are dual nature. They're here also, they are there also. So this amphibian word is where you are emphasizing on dual nature. This word can come somewhere else also, amphibian. Okay, so amphibian means dual nature. They are living on land as well as in water also. So, for example, frog, crocodile, tortoise, those are amphibians. Okay. So this is how the classification is based on habitat. I'm very sure up till now this is very easy and you all know this. This is just like passing an information to you all. Okay. Next. So see, the classification is given here based on land, terrestrial. Uh, Now, aerial are the ones that are living in air. Means they are flying in the air. So those will be mainly all the birds. Okay, so they'll be called aerial. The ones that live mainly on trees only. They don't come down from the trees. Probably they come down, but maximum time they live on the tree. Those will be arboreals. Okay, aquatic we discussed, amphibians also we discussed. So terrestrial example: cat, dog; aerial, birds, insects; arboreal, monkeys, lizards; aquatic, fishes we discussed; amphibians, frogs, toads, crocodiles, etc. Okay, next. Okay, now
Ma'am, are humans terrestrial animals?
yeah, very much human are terrestrial. We don't live on water, nor neither we live on trees, neither we
Yes.
fly. So we're definitely the terrestrial one. Okay, someone has asked, is human being multicellular? Yes, very much multicellular. Human being is one of the most complicated multicellular organisms. Okay. Now next is classification based on reproduction. Okay. So there are two ways to which organisms give birth. One is which give birth through eggs, means they lay eggs and from the egg, uh, the organism is uh, born. Okay, so that would be, those types would be called oviparous animals. Okay, and there are some which give directly birth to young ones. Okay, so that would be viviparous. So ovi, like when you're talking about egg, it would be ovi. When you're talking about direct birth, then we'd be calling as viviparous. Where do you see oviparous mainly? You see it in birds. Okay, you will see it in reptiles also, like snakes. You'll be seeing them. Okay, so all these are oviparous. What are viviparous? Viviparous is when you're giving direct birth. For example, a dog, a cat, a human being. All these will be viviparous. Okay, these are two new words for you all. So remember, when you're giving birth through the process of egg, for egg laying, and then the uh, or organism is born, then you call it oviparous. If it is direct birth, then you call it as viviparous. Next.
Ma'am, are viviparous birds also known as mammals?
Uh, oviparous,
Ma'am,
yeah, mainly.
viviparous.
Yeah, yeah. Viviparous are mainly mammals. Viviparous are mainly mammals. Uh, yeah, mainly they are mammals only. Yes, the viviparous will come in the mammal category only. Okay, okay. Now the next one will be based on the vertebral column. Okay, so vertebral column is, if we have discussed about the bones, so you know that we've got a spinal cord that is running in a bone structure which is called as a vertebral column. So if you put your fingers or your hands right behind your back, you will be able to feel that vertebral column going all the way down. We've done that. Okay. Now the animals which have the vertebral column will be called as vertebrates, and that don't have will be called as invertebrates. Very easy. So if they don't have a column, then it is invertebrates. If they have a column, then you call it as vertebrates. Example of invertebrates would be all those protozoas, all that amoeba, paramecium, and all those ones. Okay. Besides that, all the types of worms, earthworms, snails, crabs, butterflies, these all don't have vertebral column. Okay, so they are all in the category of invertebrates. If you go to see the total animal species that we have, out of that 98% are invertebrates. Only 2% come in the vertebrate column. Okay, now the ones that have vertebral column will be called as vertebrates. Examples of that will be, we know, fish, frog, lizards, snakes, chameleons, sparrows, crow, means all the birds, crow, rabbit, elephant, monkeys, human being, we all are coming in the 2% category. Okay. Now in the vertebrates also, you can divide them more further. Okay. You can tell them whether they have, we are mainly putting them into three categories. Whether they have scales over their body, whether they have hair or feather on their body, or whether they have a skin on their body. Okay, so these are the three types of classification that we are doing. More further, you can classify the vertebrates more further. So the ones like fish, the snakes, the lizards, the chameleons, they all have scales on their body. Okay, dogs, rats, monkeys, bears, they all have body covered with hair. Even human being comes in that. Okay. Crow, eagle, kites, parrots, peacocks, they all have got feather on their body. And that feather is further helping them to even fly also. Okay. So all these animals have different types of coverings on their body also. So that is how they differ. Okay. So in vertebral column, you have got vertebrates and invertebrates. Okay. And in the vertebrates, more three types of, the ones that have scales, the ones that have hair, and the ones that have feathers. Okay. Next. Okay, so this is a rough kind of a classification of how the animal can be classified on based on vertebral column and no vertebral column. So if we have invertebrates, okay, if they are invertebrates, they are further classified into another 10 groups. Okay, more 10 groups they are being further classified. That will be protozoas, then coelentrates, then flatworms, then annelids. I'm not going to the orthopods. Wait, annelids, mollusk, and echinoderms. These are three types. Okay, arthropods further get more classified into arachnids, crustaceans, insects, and myriapods. These are the names given to the group of the animal that show a certain common feature. Okay, so for example, protozoas, like I discussed before, they all are single cell and they all are microscopic. So all the ones that are like these, we are putting them in the protozoa category. Okay. Then we have got coelentrates. Coelentrates are the ones that are very soft body. Okay, and they are the ones that have stinging cells. They've got something that will sting something to kill them or whatever. Okay, so those are called as coelentrates. For example, like a jellyfish. Okay, then we've got flatworms. So their bodies are very soft, simple, and like flatworms. You know, flat. You get a lot of flatworms. You can see around in the soil also. You can see flatworms. Okay. Then we have got annelids. What are annelids? Annelids are the ones, annelid worms. They are the ones that have got segmented body. The body gets into segments. So they are more like wormy, but they've got segments in their body. So probably they've got a segment which represents the head, a segment that represents the middle body, the tail. Like segments are there in the body. Okay. Then we have got the mollusks. The mollusks are again soft body, but they have a shell. They have a covering over them. Okay. Now, if you go to see from protozoa to mollusk, okay, can you see there has been an evolution? There is one feature that is added to each one of them. You have got protozoa single cells, microscopic. Then you get soft bodies. From soft bodies are coming into soft bodies and more simple wormy-like structures. Then the wormy structures become more segmented. After segments in mollusks, now they have got a shell over their body. So every time there is a new evolution that is taking place. Okay. Then we're talking about echinoderms. Those are the ones that are mainly all the sea creatures and they're mainly spiny, like a starfish. Okay. Now we're coming to orthopods. Orthopods are the animals that have got artho. Artho means mainly, uh, ortho means mainly, uh, okay, we'll leave that right now. So in that we've got arachnids. Arachnids, we have got 8 legs. Uh, the body part is divided into two parts and they have got no antenna. No antenna is there on their head. Okay. Then you got crustaceans. Crustaceans are the one in which they've got many legs. Here they had 8 legs. Here they may be having many legs, more than that or less than that. They have got antenna. Now they've got antenna. And mainly that crustaceans, you'll find them in the sea. Okay. Then you've got all the
Ma'am, what was
insects.
the antenna used for?
Antenna is used for detecting. So they will be having all the sensors which can detect probably some smell, some danger, all different types of work
Yes.
will be done by the antenna. Okay. Insects,
Thank you, ma'am.
yes. Insect category will be 6 legs. The body is divided now into 3 parts, one pair of antenna, and now they get one extra feature. They've got wings also so that they can fly. Okay. And then finally we have got the myriapods. They've got many legs and they've got a segmented body. So can you see every time there's an evolution that is taking place? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so this is exactly what the classification is done on how the from simpler we are going to the complex one. So these were the ones, these were without the vertebra. Now we'll go to the ones who have the vertebra. Okay, now the ones who have the vertebra, the first ones, the most simpler ones in the vertebral world will be the reptiles. Okay, so how are the reptiles? They have got a dry, scaly skin. Okay, they are the ones that are oviparous. They are laying eggs. Okay, and they are cold-blooded. What is cold-blooded? What is warm-blooded? We'll be going further down. We'll be learning that. Okay, if you know it, well and good. If you don't know, hold on till we go to that point. Okay, so they are mainly cold-blooded. Okay, next evolution. Fishes again scales. Now for breathing, they are using a special organ called gills. Okay, they are also cold-blooded animals. Now they were living in water. Now they're coming on land also, living on land as well as water. So now we are calling them as amphibians. How are amphibians have got a proper skin, a slimy kind of a skin. They are also laying eggs. They are also oviparous. They are also cold-blooded. Okay. Then next, more further. Okay, birds. Now we are coming to the birds category. The avians we call them. Okay, so they are mainly the ones which have got feather on them. They've got wings to fly. They are again laying eggs, but now they are warm. Okay, and then last but not the least, the most advanced category would be of mammals. How are they? They've got fur, or they have got hair. Fur would be like all the animals.
Ma'am, your voice is cutting.
It's got normal hair like we like monkeys. Okay. Here, uh, they are viviparous. So they're giving birth to their young ones. Okay. They are feeding their young ones on their own milk when they are small. Okay. So they are warm-blooded. Okay. So the difference, main difference between cold-blooded and warm-blooded is warm-blooded animals can remain the temperature irrespective of the temperature outside of the environment. Okay, they will not change their body temperatures. Cold-blooded changes their body temperatures as per the environment. So they keep on changing their temperatures. So if you see initially all the vertebrates were cold-blooded. Okay, then further as the evolution happened, they went to a category and they became warm-blooded. Okay, so again there is a evolutioning happened. Okay, the first they were oviparous, now they are viviparous. Okay, so again in that also category there is a evolution taking place. So this is how the animal classification is done. Okay, they are they are first they were invertebrates. In the invertebrates, they had certain features like they were unicellular, they were worm-like. Then they got a shell over them. Then they started getting legs. The body started becoming more and more segmented and so on. Okay. Next week, now they have got a vertebral column. So now the vertebrates come. In the vertebrates, first they were just playing on land, swimming in water. Now they can live on both the things. Now they have got wings to fly. And now in the mammals, they're the best ones. They've got limbs, proper limbs. They can walk, they can run, they can do all the things. Okay. So up to here is the animal classification types clear. All the types that we did
Yes,
right now.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Okay. Okay, we'll go to the next slide.
Ma'am, later will you also teach us arthropods? What do they mean?
Ma'am, I have one question that where does spider come in the
No, I myself I forgot what it means. I will have to see it and tell you. Okay.
Mom,
Ma'am, I cannot hear
Yes.
you.
Uh, it's only one or people can't hear me or everyone can't hear me.
Ma'am, your voice. Ma'am, I can hear you.
ma'am, I'm able to hear you.
Yeah. So if
Ma'am,
there are
Ma'am,
major.
first your voice was breaking, but now it's fine.
Okay, fine. So now up till now, no questions, no?
Ma'am, I have one question.
Yes, tell me.
Ma'am, wild mammals they give birth to babies without laying eggs, but humans have operations. So how do they give birth to the babies?
Humans undergo operation.
Yes, ma'am. Usually humans have to get hospitalized and they have to when they're giving birth to a baby. Then how do wild animals do it?
Okay. So that is the beauty of nature. Okay. Animals, they don't live in association with anyone. Okay. So they give birth to young ones. Those young ones within few minutes they can stand on their own also. Okay. But if you see human being, a human child when it is born, it is not even able to do anything, not even turn left or right. Okay, it's not necessary that you have to be hospitalized. There's no necessity of operations. Okay, that is a wrong information given to you. It's not necessary in when there were no hospitals, when there were no good technologies available. People were giving birth to the children at home itself only. Okay, yes, you do need help in the process of birth doing, but that is you can't say it is like a back step in evolution, but that is how the evolution has taken place. Okay, and after that, if you go to see, after a certain time when the child is big, the animal's child will not get the ability to talk as a human being child. Okay, so there are some features that are added in some features not added in some of the others, but yes, in mammals human beings are the one of the most development ones because they got a power of thinking. Okay, so okay, in terms of uh, giving birth, probably we do need help, but I think in other features we don't need any help. Okay. Next. Okay. Now, this type of animal classification that I showed you right now uh, was a basic one, which is for you all to just understand. Okay. Means you just understood how they are in different forms and how they are evolving and everything. Okay. There's a proper scientific type of classification which is followed. Okay, and it was given by a scientist called as Carlos Linnaeus. Carlos Linnaeus has given a proper way of classifying things, and that type of classification is called as binomial. Binomial means two types, two names, bi. Okay, he has written it and he has given it in his book called as Systema Nerche, which was published in around 1760s, somewhere 1758, so somewhere around mid of the 18th century. Okay, in that, what does
Ma'am,
he
I've
say?
heard this word binomial.
Okay, so in this, what is it? Is that the Carlius has put broadly all the living things, all the living things. In all the living things, I would mean animals and I would mean plants also. Okay, so here today we are going to see only the ones in the animal category. Okay, Now, if you see, if I have the name tiger, okay, if I'm taking the first one, tiger, it falls under the kingdom, the broad one, the kingdom of Animalia. Okay, if I was talking probably about a mango plant, it would fall in the kingdom of plantain. Okay, that we'll be doing when we go next to the plant classification. But just giving you a rough view that you have two types. One is Animalia and one is Plantain. Today we're talking only about the Animalia. After that, he has more classified that one kingdom, Animalia, into different type of phylums. Okay, so kind of subgroups. Okay, so first subgroup, the name that he gave was called as phylum. Okay, after phylum, each phylum can be more further classified, and that phylum he gave a name class. Okay, now that class further became more classified, and you can also give them a name called as order. Okay, then that order had many families together. That had a genus, many genuses, so one genus and one species. So the actual name of tiger scientifically is called as Panthera tigris, in which Panthera, the first name, refers to the genus that it belongs to, and tigris is the species name. Okay, so it belongs to the species tigris. So if you have seen tiger also, there is a Bengal tiger, there is a white tiger, and so on. Okay, so they all are in different species, different genuses. So we human beings, if you all know, we are called as Homo sapiens, in which Homo word refers to uh, the genus and sapien refers to the species. If you all have studied about the Darwin evolution, or you've studied about in history, there was Homo erectus, there was Homo, I've forgotten. So all those homos were there, okay? So out of which the most evolved one was called as Homo sapiens, which are we human beings. Okay? So this type of very detailed classification was done by Carolus Linnaeus, because of which he was even awarded a lot of prizes. Okay, and this is done somewhere around 1760s, around 300 years back, somewhere around 250, 300 years back. And why binomial nomenclature? Because we are naming anything based on two names. Panthera tigris. Human beings are called as Homo sapiens. Orangutan is also called as a Pongo pygmaeus. Okay, so this type of very wide type of classification, you are not supposed to learn. Okay, you're not supposed to learn it. It is not even in your portion. I will be going a little bit into it. Okay, how much ever you can grasp, please do. If you can't, leave it. Imagine it to be an extra information you're seeing it on Discovery. Okay, if you can, well and good. If you can't, it's okay. It's not important. Okay, just remember the name of the scientist Carolus Linnaeus. Remember that he gave a binomial type of classification in his book, and normally we name any animal on two names: the genus name and the species name. Okay, is this
Ma'am,
part
what is
clear?
the meaning of Ma'am, what is the meaning of Panthera?
So there are no meanings out there. Okay, everything has been given a name, just given a name. Okay, there are no specific reasons that why they are given the name. Probably at the naming time he must have found some feature uh, related to it, or probably it was a Latin name given at that time. We don't know the exact reasons why, but all the animals that will fall in the Panthera genus will have a similar type of feature. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, just like I had heard
Ma'am, what is the meaning of
Primates.
See, again, I'm again telling you, don't go and ask me all the names that why it is called this, why it is called that. This was given by a scientist, and I'm just reproducing it to you that it was given by the scientist. This is the names of it. Okay, why it was given and why it was what not given. When you'll be going to your MSc biology, I'm talking about MSc biology, masters in biology, you will have to study the entire big charts. Okay, so you can keep your questions for that time.
Ma'am, what is the meaning of primates?
I just answered that. Okay, next. Okay, so this is how we put them. We have got a main domain. That main domain is now further classified into kingdoms. So you have got two main kingdoms. One kingdom will be the animal kingdom. One kingdom will be the planetary kingdom. Okay. In the kingdom, there are many phylums. Each phylum will have many classes. Each class will have many orders. Each order will have many families. Okay. Each family will have many genus, and each genus will have many species together. Okay. So this is how the classification has been done. This is how, and this is a very detailed one, very detailed one. They have put in a lot of efforts of finding all the types of organisms living on the earth, and they have put them into such kind of organization. Okay, next. So just a very short one to understand. Kingdom Animalia. There are two main phylums. One is a vertebrate and an invertebrate. So the chordata means the vertebral column. If you have a vertebral column, you call them as chordata. If you don't have, then you call them as non-chordata. Okay, so these are the phylums. Okay. Now in that there are more classes. I told you there are many classes. So if you see in invertebrates, the classes would be first would be depending on the type of the cells. How many cells are there? Okay, the cellular level. The second classification would be based on the tissue, the complexity in the tissues that the organism is having. Okay, then there would be an organ system. How we said, no, that initially they were unicellular, then they got a soft body, so they got tissues. They were all tissues. Then those tissues started forming organs, so there were segments in the body. Okay, so as and when the evolutionary step was taking place, they organized it from simple to the complexer ones. Okay, in the organ level and the heart systems, they now placed it into the ones that have no body cavity and the ones that have body cavity. So that don't have body cavity, they were called as eclomata. That ones had body cavity were called as clomatas. And in that further, they had more phylums. Okay, so this is how the invertebrates were seen. So phylum Porifera, phylum Cyndaria, phylum Platyhelminthes, phylum Nematodas, phylum Annelids, phylum Orthopoda, phylum Mollusca, phylum Echinodermata. Okay, these all type of phylums were mainly in the invertebrates. Okay, now in that phylum there will be more subcategories. So they'll go from phylum to class. From class they will go to order. From order they'll go to family, genus, species. Everything will be there. Okay. Then you have got the vertebrates. That is the chordata. They will have mainly 5 classes. That is what we studied before. Okay. That is the Piscean, the fishes, the amphibians, the ones that are living on land and in sea, Then we have got the reptilia, that is only on land. Then we have got aves, that is the birds. And finally, we have got the mammalia kingdom. Okay, so this type of a basic type of classification is what he has carried out and his entire group. Okay. Next. Okay. Now I'm going to go in details of each phylum that we studied, each phylums and everything. Okay. Uh, there is a lot of information written in that whole thing. Okay. I am not going to read everything. I'm not going to explain you everything also. The ones that are important for you, I will show it to you. Okay. When you have free time, when you wish to read anything more, you definitely go to the presentation back and read it. Okay. Because this is an extra information given. If you wish to take it, well and good, because I don't want to confuse you all the more. This is not required at your category. Okay. So first we'll talk about the phylum Protozoa. As I discussed before, so phylum Protozoas are the ones that have got one cell, single cell, all the amoeba, the paramecium, and all of that. Okay, they are mainly living in fresh water. They are also found in soil. They are found in marine environments also. Okay, lot of them are living as parasites. Means they live in other human bodies. Sorry, the other living bodies. Okay, so they are called as parasitic. Okay, for example, Plasmodium causes malaria. Okay, then they are mobile. Yesterday we spoke about last time we spoke about motile and non-motile. When I say motile, I mean that they can move on their own. Correct? So they could have paramecium, the first picture that you could see. They've got cilia all over their body. So because of that cilia, they can kind of swim. Okay. They can have flagella, like the second one, the big green color structure that is called as a Chlamydomonas. That is the name of the species, Chlamydomonas. They have that flagella, and that flagella helps it to jump. So that flagella moves and it jumps, moves and it jumps. Okay. Or they could also be an amoeboid movement. Amoeboid movement would be that like an kind of like slime. Okay, like slime. It is, you put it and then it will spread and then again it will want to move, so it will push one side of it further, one part of it further coming out like a projection, that will again move further. Okay, that is called as an amoeboid movement. So this is mainly the features of a protozoa. So there are many organisms in this: amoeba, paramecium, Chlamydomonas, Plasmodium, mainly all the bacteria, all the viruses. Right now, the coronavirus we're talking about, it will come in the protozoa category also. Okay, next. Now we talk about poriferas. Poriferas, how are they? They've got more cells, not one cells, they've got many cells. Okay, they are not segmented body. They don't have any cell. They don't have a body cavity inside them. Okay, they cannot move. They are attached to some support. Okay, they've got pores all over their body. There's small pores all over their body, and those pores are forming kind of a network, because of which they can intake food, water, whatever they want to eat, drink, and can move out also. So those pores are like inlets and outlets for them. Okay, and they don't have a skeletal structure. They're kindly made up of a spongy material, a spongy proteinous material, and they may have a hard covering on them. They may not also have a hard covering. Many examples of this would be Cycon, Euspongia, Spongilla. These are all the kind of examples. And mainly these poriferas, you will see it in water. Okay, in water. They are mainly present in the water. Okay. um, in the Homi Baba exam, what they do is that once you clear the written exam, there's a practical exam. In the practical exam, they keep these kind of uh, specimens for you to identify that what is the name of the specimen. Probably they tell you to write 1 2 features of it, and also probably the file. Okay, so when we go to that category, we'll do more detailing into it. Right now, how much ever is required for your written exam, you can take that much. Okay, next. So we did protozoa, came to porifera. Now we go to cylindrids. Okay, cylindrids. See, the last category had number of cells. Now they are becoming joints. They are forming different types of tissues. Okay, and there could be a double layer of them also, double layer of tissues. So they are called as diploblastic. They call as diploblastics. Again, they don't have any body cavity, nothing. Okay, these are the mainly the ones like jellyfish, the sea anemones, all these, So again, you see these are mainly living in the marine. So as per the evolution theory, it says that all this evolution happened in water. Then it started to moving towards the land. So that is why today also we're trying to find water on different planets. If there is water, they say if there is water present on Moon, if there is water present on Mars, if there is water present on any other planet, there would be living organisms present there. Okay. These cylindrids, they mainly live in colonies. Okay, and they are physically attached to each other. They like kind of live in colonies. So they are, they are close living to each other. For example, your corals all come in the cylindrid phylum, and examples, some may be living free also. Some live in colony, some may be living free also. So colony living example could be a coral, sea anemone, those all are colony living, and solitary living on their own would be hydra, a jellyfish, a sea anemone, those all would be things that are living. Okay. Next. Okay. Now we come to the phylum Platyhelminthes. Okay. Now in Platyhelminthes, now they don't have tissues, but the tissues have become more organized. Now they have become organs. Okay. And they've got three layers of this organ levels. The cells are in 3 layers. That's why they're called as triploblastics also. Okay. They have got a proper symmetry, like a proper left and right side. You can identify a bilateral symmetry to them. They don't have any segments. They don't have any body cavities. Nothing is there. Okay. But they have got organs. So now they're getting more organized. Okay. Examples would be tapeworms, liver fluke. All these, you hear them, human being get infected with these parasites. So these are called as parasites. They live in some other organism and take their nourishment from some other living organism. Okay. The main feature of Platyhelminthes is that they have got a flat body. So they are called as flatworms. Okay. They can be free living or they can be parasites. Free living means they could be living in water, they could be living in soil. So they are flat, they are free living. And if they are living in some body, then they would be parasites. Okay. If on the right side you can see, this is the phylum Platyhelminthes. In the phylum, I said they are more further divided into many classes. So you can see this class Turbellaria, class Trematoda. Okay. Then this class Cestoda. So more further classification is there. Okay. So up till now we did 4. We did protozoa, porifera, Coelenterata, and Platyhelminthes. 4 we've done. Okay. Now we'll go to the 5th one. Next. Now nemata. Here again tissues are tri-layered, so they are called as triploblastic. They've again got symmetry. right and left. Okay. Here they don't have a body cavity, but there is something like a body cavity. It's not exactly a body cavity, but there is something like a body cavity. So you call it as a false body cavity. Whenever there is the word false false, you add the scientific name pseudo. Pseudo. So whenever I say pseudo, it means it is not really there. Something else is giving it a feature that it looks like that. Okay, so you will come across this word pseudo a lot many times in science. Pseudo means it is not really there. It is appearing to be. So we call it like false. It is appearing. It is not
So,
really
ma'am,
there.
pseudo means it is an illusion.
No, not an illusion. It is there, but it is not exactly like how it should be. It is like in between. It is not even there, it is there also, but it is in between. It is not really properly formed. So the body cavity is not really properly formed, but there is something like a body cavity. You can't even call it a body cavity. So that is why you call it the name as false. It is not illusion. Huh? There is no illusion. It is there. Okay. There is an organ system present in this, and these are again worms. You find these worms in your body, the nematodes in the intestine. They are called as good bacteria. You call them the good bacteria. Okay, they are the round worms. Okay, and here now there is a formation of male and female. So there is a sexual dimorphism. You can see the different sexes, the male and the female. So see that is the up that we have gone from the last feature. Okay, so we have got a false body cavity also, and we have got a male and a female. Okay, Ascaris is one very common worm that is found in the intestine, which causes worm problems in small children. So then the doctor gives anti-worming medicines. Okay, so up till now we did 5: protozoa, porifera, coelenterata. Uh, the previous one was I forgot what was it. The previous one. Platyhelminthes, and now the nematode. Up till here, up till 5 phylum, you all are clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll go to the next one. Okay, now we go to annelids. Okay, now there's a proper organ system. Systems have come into the picture. Up till now we had only organs. Now different organs are there, and now they're forming a proper organ system. Okay, they are again bilateral symmetry. There is left and right. Okay, there's a proper body cavity, so we call them as cleomats. Okay, best example would be an earthworm. Okay? So when we were doing our BSc, and in BSc we had the topic of biology, zoology, we were dissecting the earthworm. So we would dissect the earthworm. We would see the organ system that it has, the proper digestive system. It has a different type of it, not the one we have, but yes, there's a proper digestive system. You can identify the male in it, you can identify the female in it also. Okay, so now there's a proper system that has come into the picture. Okay, there's a proper system. Okay, and here we can find them again in fresh water and in marine water. You see, up till now they are still in water only.
Ma'am, they can't come in land.
Hello.
Hello?
1 second. I think Farida ma'am. Yeah,
Okay, I got mute.
yeah, I know.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Ma'am, there was a big glitch and accidentally I muted him.
Huh?
Ma'am, there was a glitch and I accidentally muted him. That's why I got muted. There was a glitch.
Okay. Okay. So where was I audible up to which part?
Up to dissection of earthworms and presence of digestive system and all.
Okay. So after that presence of uh, digestive system, you can see the proper male and the proper female also. You can identify the circulatory system also that is there. There's a proper circulatory system, not like poriferas, which hold, everything coming in, everything going out, nothing like that. They have a proper circulation system inside them. So you basically have a proper organ system level in the annelids. Okay, so the examples would be earthworm and leech. Next.
ma'am, I had asked something that they can't come in land, the
Ha,
annelida.
they can come in land. Earthworms are formed in land also, found in land also, but they mainly like to stay near the water.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Next.
Ma'am, earthworms breathe through their skin, right?
Yes, they breathe through the skin, earthworms. Now these are the orthopods. Okay. Again, they have organ system. They have a proper body cavity, proper well-defined organs, what function they are doing. Now they've got one more feature that they've got jointed legs. Okay, the legs are properly joined. They've got joints. Here now they have an open circulatory system. Okay, means the circulatory system, there are no blood vessels. There, everything is open. So whatever in human beings you've got blood. They don't have blood. They have got something else that is flowing for circulation. There's something else that is flowing for circulation is open. It is not. It is not in happening in vessels. It is happening outside, means in the body, open system. Okay. So here, and very important features, they've got a chitinous exoskeleton. So they have got a very good skeleton system made of chitinous material. Okay. Uh, in this category, you'll find all your small insects and everything. That would be uh, your crabs, your cockroaches, your scorpions, your butterflies, spider, prawns, centipedes, houseflies. They all are in this category, the orthopods. Okay, and this orthopod is a very big phylum. Okay, because we see all these organisms very easily. Okay, but there are many classes in this. Orthopod is a very big class. Okay, so the main feature is that they've got jointed legs, they've got an open circulatory system, and they have an exoskeleton system. Okay, so the skeleton is outside. Okay.
Ma'am, this is actually what I was asking you. Which phylum is spider? So it's of what is this? Arthropoda, right?
Orthopod. Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am, what is jointed legs? Ma'am, can you explain? Is it spelling mistake? Jointed legs.
No. There is no spelling mistake. The legs are when they start they are jointed, and they can have pairs of legs. So they don't have, like we have only one pair of legs. They can have many pairs of legs. That is how you mean jointed. So you can say that they got 6 pairs of legs. So they all start from one end, 3 on left side, 3 on right side. That way, jointed. Jointed meaning is that. Yes.
Ma'am, I did not understand this open circulatory of it. Open.
Open circulatory means we spoke about our heart. The heart, the blood from the heart goes to blood vessels. that is the arteries and the veins, that is not there in these orthopods. Whatever circulatory kind of blood, they don't really have blood, but whatever material is circulating in the body, it is not blood, it is light blood. I'm again telling, it is not blood, it is light blood. Whatever that circulatory liquid, that fluid is there, is not flowing in the in proper, well-defined blood vessels. They are flowing whole in the whole proper body. So, for example, if anytime killed a cockroach or something, you'll find that that entire thing splashes out, the entire liquid splashes out. Okay, so that liquid was not, if it was properly in some blood vessels, it would not splash out. It is just flowing in its entire body.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, next. Now we'll go to the mollusks. Uh, in the mollusks, so basically, you can see that the body is divided into a head, into some visceral mass, and into muscular foot. So they've got like divided into three parts: the head, a mass in between, and a foot. Okay. The mollusks, they have a very hard shell. For example, like snail, so they have a hard shell. Okay, sometimes they can have a little bit hard shell also. For example, like an octopus. Okay, here also they are following open circulatory system, and they have got a special organ, kidney, for their excretion. Okay, examples in this would be all of these that you can see: the slug, the snail, octopus, scallops, squids. All these will come in the category of mollusk. So when I
So
talk
basically,
about mollusk, it means they have a hard shell. Was it?
so in an open circulatory system, it's basically that they don't exactly have blood; they have some other fluid flowing in their body.
In the entire body.
Ma'am,
In the
in no blood,
entire body. In the
no blood.
entire body. Blood is not there. There is something like blood. Mainly plasma. It is there. It is flowing in the entire body, but not in proper vessels. Not in arteries, not in veins. They don't have arteries and veins. It is just flowing in the entire body.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. We'll go to the next phylum. Next, this is, I think, no, this is second last, the Echinodermata. Okay, the ninth one. The Echinodermata, these are some of the little bit more advanced in the sea levels. That is, they have got like starfish or a sea cucumber. They have a spiny dermis. They have a spiny skin. Okay, which is made up of calcium carbonate, very uh, scaly, like very pokey, like. And they have a water vascular system which is helping them to uh, procure their food, and they can also locomote also. They can move from one place to the other also. So locomotion is there. Proper locomotion is there. Okay.
So, ma'am, is it like the other ones that they don't have the blood vessel and have the like something like blood in it?
No, this is a totally different system altogether only. This is a water vascular system. This is totally different altogether.
Okay, ma'am.
They do have a vascular system. They do have a, they do, because see, they are living in water, so they will mainly take all the nutrition from water only, all the things that they require. So that will flow through certain tubes, which we call as vascular system. That entire tube system is called as vascular system. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Next.
Ma'am, also they don't look as if they are like alive, but they are alive, right?
Yeah, they are alive. Starfish is very much alive. Okay, next.
Ma'am, this is the last one.
Am I audible?
Ma'am, you're not that much audible.
Ma'am, I was breaking a little bit. Yes, ma'am, a little.
Okay. Now we're talking about the last phylum, the Hemichordata. Why Hemichordata? It is in between the chordata and the non-chordata. Means that is the invertebrates and the vertebrates. Okay. These are mainly the wormy types, the acorn worms they are called. Okay. First they were put in the chordata column, but then somebody proved that no, they don't belong there. So now they've again moved them back to the in chordata column, the non-chordata column. And you'll find these mainly in the ocean near the sea. Okay, they can be very small from few millimeters to they can be up to as big as 1.5 meter also. The best example of it is called as a Balanogogus gigas. This is the binomial nomenclature again. Okay, this species is there and it starts feeding on small organic particles. So it wants some organic material as their food. Okay, and these have got the name acorn worms because of a special feature that they've got on their head. If you can see proboscis, a special one uh, part they have got, which is called as a proboscis, because of which they've given the name acorn worms. Okay, and these have got a good digestive system, they have a good reproductive system, so they are a very well organized one. So these are the most organized if you see in the level of invertebrates. Okay, so up till here we finished all the invertebrates. Next,
The pro.
any questions?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No.
Okay, next. Okay, like we said, I told you we'll go more detail into cold and warm. Cold-blooded animals are which cannot maintain their body temperature. Okay, they are constantly changing as per the environment. The warm-blooded, they have a good body maintenance of their temperature. Okay, the cold-blooded, they will take the heat from their surrounding. We produce heat, that is energy, from the food that we eat. Okay, the warm-blooded ones, that is the uh, birds and the mammals, all the mammals. Okay, uh, in the cold-blooded, the body temperature will change as per the environment. Okay, that will not be the feature for the warm-blooded. They are mainly around 35 degrees to 40 degrees centigrade. That is around below 98 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so the body temperature will remain somewhere there. Okay, and the cold-blooded, they have a feature, they can regulate the heat in the body by changing the colors or also being in the sunlight. So they have got like chameleons, they can change their colors. Okay, warm-blooded ones, they produce heat by metabolism, that is by the food that you eat, and that is converted. We saw how it is getting converted into energy in the cells by the mitochondria. That process is happening. Okay, sometimes they also adapt methods like hibernation. Like, bears undergo hibernation, a lot of other animals also undergo hibernation, means during the cold season they will be just in one place, they will not move from their place. That is hibernation. Okay,
So, ma'am,
examples in examples in cold-blooded would be fishes, reptiles, insects, amphibians, and warm-blooded would be mammals and birds.
humans are warm-blooded. So, like, if we eat an ice cream, then we feel very cold, right?
Ma'am, I
Does your
cannot
body
see.
temperature change? Your body temperature changes when you eat your ice cream. So if you were 96 degrees Fahrenheit after eating ice cream, you become 0 degrees Fahrenheit.
Ma'am, I cannot see the next slide.
No, ma'am.
I can very well see the slide. You're not pinning yourself to proper KitKat lab.
Ma'am, I have pinned myself to KitKat lamp, but it's showing film echinodermata.
Okay, then you need to leave again and come back. There's an error with your network.
Ma'am, I can still see cold-blooded and warm-blooded animals.
Yeah.
That's the slide that we're on now.
Okay. We'll go to the next slide. Okay. So this is basically a comparison of all the classes in the vertebrates. Okay. Starting from right, the first one, that is the Piscean, the fish. Then comes on the left side, you can see the names, the amphibians, then the reptilia, then the aves, and then the mammals. So you can see how in the fishes they've got cartilage. The skeleton is made up of bones and cartilages. They have got scales on their body. Amphibians, now they are getting a skin which is very nice and smooth and slimy skin. Now the reptilia, now the skin has become dried from wet. Now it is getting dry scales. Birds, they get with the skin, they're getting more feature, they're getting feathers. Okay, they have a good beak. The beak may also have teeth also. Okay, and the bones are hollow. Why the bones are hollow? So that the bone becomes light in weight so that they can fly. Okay, and finally we have mammalia, the ones that have got skin with hair. They've got sweat glands that they can remove the sweat whenever required, so to maintain the body temperature.
Ma'am, how do birds produce blood cells if they have hollow bones?
uh, really don't know the answer. We'll have to study about it. That whether they have blood also or no, I really don't know. Means if they have blood also, what type of blood is there in? Uh, they do have blood. Yes, there is blood. Yes, no, they do have blood. Yes, birds do have blood, but where they are producing the blood, I don't know. Probably if they are having hollow bones, probably the last layer, probably I don't know, huh? Probably the last layer of that hollow, the ring one, that ring could be the one that is producing the blood. Okay,
Ma'am,
or
a question.
hmm? Okay, now we'll go to the heart. You can see first there are only two chambers in the heart. There are three chambers. Now there are three chambers.
Ma'am,
Next, now in the birds and in the mammals, now there are four chambers.
excuse me, ma'am.
Hmm.
Ma'am, is whale a mammalia?
Mammal. Yes, whale is in the mammalia kingdom, mammalia class. Yes. So see here someone has given information about birds make red blood cells in their bone marrows, but not all the bones have the same amount of bone marrow. Thank you very much for the information. Okay, so the first three animals are cold-blooded, the next two are warm-blooded. The type of respiration carried out in fishes will be with gills. Amphibians, again, they
Ma'am, you are muted.
who does
Dhyan,
that? Yeah, please don't do it. Yeah, because I'm in the flow and I have gone much more ahead. So I spoke about how the first three are cold-blooded and the next two are warm-blooded. Okay. Then respiration in fishes is by gills. Amphibian is by gills also, and also now they've got lungs also because they have to live on land also. Okay. Then all the rest, the reptilia, the birds, the mammals, they are all by lungs. Okay. Reproduction, the first four, all of them are oviparous, so they are by eggs. The mammalias are the ones that are by giving birth to the young ones, that is viviparous. Okay, fish found in water, amphibians, both land and water, reptilians, mainly on land, mainly, though they can go in water, but mainly on land. Birds in air and land, and mammals you can find them on land, and they can go in water, they can go in air. I don't know. I don't think so. They can go in air. Examples, there are a lot of examples. You all know them. I'm not going to go into it. Next slide. How long do animals live? Okay, you can have animals living for one day, for some hours, up to you can have animals living for lot many years. So we know that giant tortoises, they live for 150 years also. Okay, so this will show you how, what is the age of which animals, what is the lifespan of the animals. Okay, the lifespan of animals can be for some hours, from some hours to some days to some months to some years to many years also. Okay, so this lifespan is changing for each and every living organism.
Ma'am,
Next. Hmm.
there's a fact that I forgot the name of the species, but it's a shark and it can live up to 420 years.
Wow. So see, we've got one more. We should change that and make it 450 years to that
Ma'am, sea
manner.
turtles can live
Ma'am,
up to 200 years, and even parrots.
ma'am, claims has been made of sports to be to be the longest living animal, and I mean organism, and it can live up to 400 million years.
Okay, good.
Ma'am,
Next.
some kinds of turtles can also live up to
Oh,
400 to 500 years.
very good. Your information of seeing into Discovery channels and seeing into encyclopedia helps. Next. So we have different importance of animals, and because of which we know and we like to use that and profit from it. So sericulture, that is, if you are uh, the worm, the sericulture, the silkworms, you grow them, they produce silk, and after producing silk, that silk is utilized by us. So that is called as sericulture. Vermiculture is when you're growing earthworms. So that earthworms are called as friends of farmers. They help to make pores in the soil, because of which the soil gets good amount of air also, and all the rich contents of the air, that is oxygen and everything, goes into the soil. Okay, apiculture, that is honeybee, when you're cultivating honeybee and that is producing honey. Pisciculture is when you are doing it, the fishes, you're growing specifically the fishes for eating purpose, for basically for eating purpose, that is what you call as pisciculture. Lac, lac is a special type of a resin which comes out from an insect. Okay, and for in order for us to have that lac, that special type of resin, what do we do is, we on a tree, we build colonies of these insects and let them grow, and we let them grow, and then in turn they produce this lac, and then that lac is used as a resin, kind of an adhesive for our industrial uses. Okay, so these are some of them. There are many economic importance of the animals. Okay, next. Any questions up till now?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Ma'am, I
next.
have a question.
No, ma'am.
Ha, tell.
Ma'am, in the last slide, Ma'am, the last slide, it was showing that, like, ma'am, the last, ma'am, the lac culture. What
Hmm.
is the lac used for in industries?
As an adhesive, as a gum, kind of like a Fevicol kind of a material.
Okay, ma'am.
Next.
Ma'am, I have.
Okay. Now next slides, no, you will see all the life cycles. Okay, this I'm not going to really discuss. You all can see it as and when you have time. There is life cycle of butterfly, how the butterfly converts to caterpillar, then it becomes into pupa, then it becomes into butterfly. Okay, there are certain life cycles given. There's life cycle of butterfly. Next, there is life cycle of a cockroach, how there are eggs of cockroach, then they become into a small baby cockroach that is called as nymph, and then it becomes into an adult. Then we've got frogs they have eggs, and then they become into bigger ones that they are called as embryos. Those embryos become into tadpoles, and that tadpoles become into young ones. Okay, now there's one feature which is there in the butterfly as well as in the frogs is you can see that how from worms they are becoming into if we talk about butterflies, from worms they are becoming into butterflies. Okay, so this process is called as metamorphosis, means they're getting changed completely from one form to the other. They're getting completely metamorphosed. Okay, that is called as metamorphosis, means from a pupa you're becoming into a butterfly. Okay, so from a worm you're becoming into something totally different, into a butterfly. So that is called as metamorphosis. The same thing is happening in your frog also. Okay, in the frog also, from embryos they become into tadpole. The ones which don't really resemble a frog, but now they are resembling like a frog. So there is a process which is called as metamorphosis. They're totally changing. Okay.
Ma'am, we have two side ponds in our school, and we can see many tadpoles in it.
Very good. Nice. So please next time take pictures whenever you go of all the different stages if you can. Grasshopper
Okay,
is
ma'am.
also something like a cockroach. They've got the eggs, they become into nymph, from nymph they become into adult. Okay, next. A housefly, again a housefly lays eggs. It goes into a larval stage, first larval, second larval, third larval. Then it becomes into pupa. Then see again from pupa it is metamorphosized into a adult fly. So again changing, totally different form. Okay. So that is it. These are some of the life cycles. There may be so many life cycles. We cannot really go into all details, but a brief of it. Okay. So I think today's session is done. Any question related to animal classification?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
No? Okay. So we'll be meeting tomorrow, 10 o'clock. 2 days now, next 2 days, we're going to deal with plants, plant
Okay, ma'am.
classification, like how we ran animal classification. We'll go into plant classification, and then we'll go into the plant parts and the functions of the plant parts. Okay, so mainly we'll be finishing. This is kind of finishing the bio portion. Okay. Uh,
Okay,
there
ma'am.
is still one important portion left, that
Okay, ma'am.
the carbohydrates, the fats, and the proteins that we'll see if we'll do next week, or then we might do with physics or chemistry.
Ma'am, we are
Okay,
almost finished
ma'am.
with
Bye,
biology.
ma'am.